Hello, everyone, and welcome to Final Fantasy Count Up Cast. The show has been going for many, many weeks at this point as we anticipate the release of Final Fantasy 15. And as of this show, it's only an 8-day wait. But that means two more Count Up Casts before Final Fantasy 15 launches. So today we're going to be talking about the future of Final Fantasy. Where does Final Fantasy 15 take us after it launches? Will it be a success? Will it mean the end of console gaming for Final Fantasy as a whole, as it has been mentioned before? We'll discuss that today. But of course, joining me, I have two lovely other people here with me. Two great, fantastic other people. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no. I only counted. There's only two people here. That's what I meant to say.
And
who's the
we're
other
same
one?
person, so there's technically just the one.
Technically, there's just the one because we are actually the same person. I am one of your hosts, Michael, Mr. Happy. Poverone, of course, joining me is Slackaholicus, not saying his last name. Because Slack is clearly his real first name. Right?
Yeah.
That's what your parents
Slack
named you.
the Holicus. That's my name. That's how it
Man,
works.
man, two fantastic awake people. So, for anyone wondering why Morag is just a portrait, so there's this fantastic RPG. It's not Final Fantasy, so we don't really talk about it much. It's called Lost Odyssey, and let's just say that he's been playing it for the last few. Right? It's been like what 5-6 days he's been playing it.
It's been 4 or 5 days because he was beating the discs one by one a day.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on the last day, he may have
Overdone it a little bit.
Yeah, he was live for 18 hours straight. He got to sleep maybe 4. No, he finished streaming maybe 5 hours ago.
It was about 7 hours ago, something like that.
7 hours ago. Okay, but we know he doesn't fall asleep right away.
No.
Even after an 18-hour stream. That's just not
And
Morag's
we
MO.
especially know that this time because he was still tweeting at us afterwards.
Yes. And he was showboating like, "Oh, look at me! I'm gonna be on time for the show. I'm like
gonna bring some
Slackaholicus."
chicken and coffee, and I was like, "All right."
But where
We'll
is
see.
he now?
He's eating that chicken and drinking that coffee in his dreams.
At least he's got chicken. That's what I'm talking about. At least I got nachos. Where are your white fudge Oreos?
They're out there. I don't want to eat them all at once because if I eat them on this right now, they're gonna be gone.
Yeah, that's fair. I can help you with that. I could.
No. I got this. It's fine.
You got this one? You're
Yeah.
sure? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just making sure. So, you know what's even funnier about the fact Morag's not here? He's the one who planned today's topic.
Oh yeah.
To Morag, more like to more sleep.
Ah!
Yeah. So he actually planned today's show, but luckily I'm the one who does all the bouncing the topics around on the show. So I could just make up everything and we'll be fine because we don't need to discuss with him.
You think
the
they'll
show.
introduce clowns to Final Fantasy as a main character?
Yeah, how about you shut up? So, the discussion of how we're going to go today. There's actually quite a bit to talk about regarding the future of Final Fantasy because for a lot of people, it's been on the fence ever since 15 was kind of announced. When it was announced as Versus 13 moved over to 15, action combat, changing aspects of the story. A lot of people have either been the future of Final Fantasy is very bleak or the future of Final Fantasy is going to be amazing. And we're going to cover the different aspects of that. First of all, Slack, we've kind of had a lot of experiences getting here, and we've moved towards more active gameplay as we've progressed through the series. How do you feel about an active, not turn-based Final Fantasy in a main Final Fantasy game?
At this point, it's such a norm that I'm totally okay with it. I mean, on the state side, we have spent more time with active time battles than we ever did with turn-based battles as the series came up. Final Fantasy 1 was the only real turn-based game we had for a very long time. We immediately went into Final Fantasy 4 and Final Fantasy 6, or as they were known here, 2 and 3, where they went right over to the ATB system. After that, 7, 8, 9 all had the ATB system again. So it's, for a lot of Americans, I feel like it's just the way that the series is supposed to be more than the turn-based system.
Now, an interesting point that you're making there is comparing the ATB system to Final Fantasy 15's direct. There's not action or active turn-based. It's just the active or action part.
And so now we are seeing the further evolution of that, of the ATB system, where there's a bar that's filling up into completely freeform, action-driven gameplay. And this is where I start to get a little bit worried about the series. And because of that, I kind of wonder if Japanese fans had the same reaction as Final Fantasy developed over there, going from the turn-based to the ATB system. I don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of action-driven gameplay. I love games like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, and so on. And so it's not that I dislike the idea of action gameplay. It's that for a main series title, it feels really, really weird. It's a very big system change, and I'm not sure that I'm okay with it so far.
Well, you've been avoiding a lot of the actual gameplay itself. So you're not someone who's gotten to try Judgment Disc and felt the full wrap.
I played the second demo, which was Platinum demo.
Don't, please. Right? That's just.
I didn't mind the combat there. I was okay with it. It was definitely not responsive the way that it should be, but what I had from that demo was like, okay, if I see a finished product of this, I could totally get behind this from a gameplay perspective.
Well, you'll have your finished product in 8 days. 8 days.
It's so weird. It feels like we're in purgatory, we're in limbo, and that we've just been doing this forever now, and we're going to keep doing it forever. And
it'll never actually launch.
Never actually come out.
Well, you made mention of something interesting there, and it's that as a main series title, that's a main aspect of the argument regarding turn-based versus active, is because they slapped a number on the end, the expectation is turn-based. Why do you feel like that has to be the case, or do you feel like that's a justified response, and that because they slapped a number on the end, it can't be different than the other main numbered series? It still has to sort of be a turn-based game, even if it is ATB?
I mean, when it was a side series title, I was totally okay with the idea. Like when it was
that's the exact point. People were excited as hell for Versus 13.
Yeah.
And then they switched the name to 15, and it felt like that's it. The same idea, but they just made it main numbered, and all of a sudden it was.
And I mean, when it was Versus 13, it was okay, and then it feels like the other problem that I have with it is that they were like, well, we've spent so long on this game now, we need to really sell it. So let's just throw a main series number on it and market it like that. It feels like it wasn't supposed to be a main series title, and part of me always will feel like that because of gameplay.
Well, that's the same argument you can make for.
It's like
that's the same argument you can make for 7 Remake, where we know it's going to be in multiple parts, and we grew up with one purchase being the whole game, and so it's kind of the same mentality that you have there. And we'll talk about 7 Remake today, because we are talking about the future of Final Fantasy, and that is something that's coming after 15 that we have to look at. So, and there's another thing that I want to mention that I don't know if you've heard about Slack, but it's like a week ago somebody brought it to my attention in an interview, and it is very important to you. Specifically you more than anyone else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you'll understand why when we get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a huge thing that I liked the idea when it was Versus 13. I still like the idea when it was 15. Do you think that that's all it was? They needed to sell it and then make it a full game, or do you think it was the separation of the mythos from Final Fantasy 13 and Fabula Nova Chrysalis that led
I don't know.
it?
It's really tough to being on the outside, not being in the board meetings and everything, to be totally sure about.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I think they wouldn't let us have the show if we were in on the board meetings.
I definitely think that it's part of it. There's even a possibility that they decided to separate the mythos because they wanted to turn it into a main series title. I don't know. There is a definite possibility for both. That they were like, well, now that we're just doing away with the Fabula Nova Crystallis, we've got to do something else with this. This game can't be really tied to 13 anymore, because the thing that was tying it there, poof, it's up in smoke.
It's interesting that it's up in smoke, because very recently they also said that the 13 series sold to expectations. All 3 games sold to Square Enix's expectations. Even Lightning Returns, which was by far the lowest seller of the bunch, which shocked me that they were content with Lightning Returns' performance.
How much did that sell? I want to say
I don't even know if it sold over 1 million.
Yeah, I don't think it did.
I know 13.2 still, it was in the millions. I think it was like two or three.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. And that's a big discussion here with 15 is how much it will sell. That's
Incredibly.
Yeah.
I can't see this game performing poorly. I think it'll outsell 13.
I think it'll outsell 7, to be honest.
There's
time, because seven's count is over what's almost 20 years now of the game being available for purchase.
Yeah, the thing with 7 sales, is it all of the re-releases of 7 as well?
Like I don't know.
Steam? Yeah, it's so strange.
But all we know is the recorded amount is 11.3 million.
Yeah,
and
it's very hard to pin down exactly which numbers those are. That I think that has to count at least some of the re-releases across some of the platforms.
It has to.
The original release, greatest hits, probably Steam version, original PC version as well. PS3 re-release, got that right.
PS4 re-release.
Or PS4, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that actually has the speed up, I think.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. Whenever I play the Steam version, I'm like, can they just patch it in?
Come on, just add it in.
Just that's it. I already paid for it. Just give it to me, please. Phrasing. Anyway. So yeah, do you think so? One thing that the 13 series taught us, though, and is that you can be one of the most controversial Final Fantasy games of all time and still sell incredibly well.
Yep.
If this sells well, but it's not received well by the fans, does that affect Square Enix's mentality going forward in Final Fantasy, or are they going to say, well, we sold 10 million copies? We can read as much negative feedback as we like, as long as the general consensus is okay, like 13's. We're fine.
I mean, I think they'll have to pay attention to like what happened with 7 leading into 8, and then 8 to 9. From 7 to 8, we saw huge sales for 7. It was a system seller for the PlayStation, and then moving into Final Fantasy 8, the numbers were still very high, but the reception was really bad. And then going into 9, because of how poorly 8 was received, 9 sales definitely took a hit. It was a big effect on the series. And it's something that they have to be thinking about with the release of 13 and now with the release of 15.
It's crazy to think 13 was the flagship Final Fantasy for PS3, and then 15 was the flagship main series, like not MMO, for the PS4. Yeah. So in theory, it should sit in a similar position to 13, 7, and Final Fantasies 1, 2, and 3, all back on the Nintendo consoles.
Yep.
In theory, but we still have to see. And that's a number that we're going to be watching very closely, is the sales numbers.
Yep. I mean, given what I've seen from friends, from message boards, from responses on videos, from just responses over the internet as a whole, I feel like 15 so far is very, very hyped up. I think it's going to do very well on release.
But Conan didn't like it.
Can we talk about that just even for just a second? I mean, I cannot believe how many people I saw on my timeline saying stuff like, why would Square let Conan release a review where he trashes the game? And here's why. It's fucking Conan! If you're going to him for your gaming opinions, then I'm sorry.
He's clueless for a reason.
Just yeah.
I actually thought it was hilarious because the way he responded is very similar to what a non-RPG fan who doesn't see gameplay would probably react. Mm-hmm. I mean, the boy band thing was on point. The way RPGs have so many quests and so much text, on point. Like, they're not wrong observations in a lot of ways. It's just hilarious to see the way he expressed it. I do feel it wasn't fair they didn't show a single enemy killed in the entire video. He never fought one enemy.
Yep.
That I would have liked to have seen. Even
and
if he
how
wants
long was the video?
6 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when he's going out and he's talking to the people out in the hall, it's like, I know that person. Francis, I'm so sorry. What is wrong with you? He wasn't even talking to developers. He was talking to the community team.
Yep.
And everyone's like, oh, he's trashing to the developers. I mean, he said it was the developers too. But
yeah.
The people who make the game are outside. I thought it was a great piece of comedy, to be honest.
There's
just not a game review.
Like, if you can't laugh at the things you love, then you're looking at them the wrong way. And anybody who takes that... If anybody was looking forward to 15, and then because of his review, isn't going to buy it now and isn't going to play it...
They wanted a reason not to buy it in the first place. Yeah.
Seriously.
So hats off to you, Conan, for a great piece of comedy. I'm sorry, some people took it a little too seriously. And he didn't fight the Adamantoise. He only unlocked the Adamantoise, and then had the 72-hour thing where he almost choked out the guy who talks about the games to him. Oh man. So let's get back on track about talking about the future of Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 has regularly been regarded by Square Enix itself as the last hope for console gaming in Japan. That's a big weight.
Yeah.
Specifically Japan. They're not saying console gaming for the company, but when the company moves away in their native region, you have to imagine the impact is somewhat felt in the other countries, because they're going to develop for the country that they live in probably. And they have plenty of games that they publish now that are Western titles. They have Tomb Raider, like they have Hitman, they have Deus Ex, and those are all really well-selling games. Do they feel like they rely on Final Fantasy to continue being a console hit? Or do you think that that this may actually be one of the outside of 7 Remake, which has already been confirmed as a PS4 first? How do you feel this impacts the console market regarding Final Fantasy if it doesn't do well?
Can you imagine a series that is so important to the console market that if it goes away, it could be the death knell for that entire market?
I don't think it would be the death.
I think it would be.
It would be in Japan. In Japan, they would just stop doing consoles overall, or they'll do what Nintendo's doing, and they'll do the hybrid mobile home thing.
And I mean, if any series could pull it off, that isn't like Nintendo kind of exists in a bubble in their own. So we're not referring to them, but specifically like Sony. If any series was to be at that level, it's Final Fantasy. I mean, I bought a PlayStation because I wanted to play Final Fantasy VII. After playing 1, 2, and 3 growing up, I needed to continue the series. With the sheer numbers that this series has been able to put out on new systems and the systems that it has helped move, that's going to be a very, very big blow to the industry if Square just kind of goes, well, just didn't do so hot, and it's not good enough for us anymore. We're gonna invest more into mobile gaming, into Steam releases. That would be really weird for them to take as a
listen. If they want to make Final Fantasy 16 on Steam, I'm not opposed to it, but it would be really strange. It wouldn't feel right.
Yeah.
It feels right as a re-release. It never feels right when we get... Not even like Final Fantasy 9, which was just a mobile game that they ported to Steam. They're like, no, we're going to release it on mobile first. That way it doesn't originally release on Steam. We can't do that. We can't have it originally released on Steam. That's where we put all our re-releases. We can't do that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's a possibility. I mean, they have 7 Remake and Kingdom Hearts 3 both being developed right now for consoles. It's a pretty ballsy statement to say that this is
more of like, it's not going to be something that's felt like 15 comes out, they say that consoles suck now, and then it's just, it's going to be a downward trend at that point, if it happens at all. I'm talking very theoretically here.
Yeah. And I think theoretically it's not. I don't think it's possible. I don't think there's a chance 15 doesn't do well enough to warrant them to continue developing.
No, I agree. Yeah, there's no way that it doesn't do at least that well. I can't imagine a world where it doesn't.
Well, speaking of Final Fantasy 15, we do have next week's segment is going to be sort of a collusion of all of the 15 content that's been released up to that point, since it's the day before the launch. So we've started to get a little bit more. Today, the 101 video was released, and it's not really, they're calling it a trailer. It's literally this is how our game works by Square Enix. This is what summons are. These are your party members. These are the weapons that they can use. This is their personality. It's very oddly narrated. The narrator just sounds like he wants nothing to do with this scenario. But
I'm reading a script. All right.
Noctis is the leader of the party. He has a wide array of weaponry.
They got him into the booth, and they just took whatever he said on the first take.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it feels. And only made it do it when he flubbed up. It's like, yeah, you flubbed up just one more time. And that was, I feel like, as odd as the narration was, I can't remember the last time a game literally released this is how our game works without just being the developers kind of just stepping over their own words. Like, developers aren't always great speakers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times this kind of information comes from developers, And it's like, yeah, well, so like the elephant over there, you can ride him. And it's like, that is just not an adequate explanation of what your game is about.
Yeah, we get a lot of stuff like E3 events where they're demoing it on
Oh,
stage.
wow. I can't believe you just did that.
Oh my god, he busted right through the wall. Uh-oh, you better shoot him in his knee because that's the weak point. You can tell because...
You can tell because it's flashing. Yeah. It's like... Yeah, it's like... But this was... I don't know. I watched this. I was like, you know what? That was good. You know how many of these things people have no idea about? Even though there's the information's out there.
So much information about it.
Stick it in a 6-minute video and all of a sudden everyone's got it.
Yep.
And that was a solid piece of, of content I felt put out by them. Content.
That they created.
Yeah, that they created. I wonder how long that took. I don't know.
Probably a week. Something like that.
A couple more things are happening in the next 2 days. JP is going to have the community team for 15 at his house, and he's going to get to play it on stream tomorrow. And IGN is also going to have streams tomorrow with the developers, and they're going to be doing developer interviews all day.
Nice.
So those are 2 things that are happening this week that are going to be important for next week. And other than that, we're still kind of just sitting. It's 8 days away, but I don't think anyone really feels like you said it's 8 days away.
Yeah, it's... I mean, I keep waking up every day and I'm like, when does the game come out? I've got other stuff I was going to do.
Well, now you have something more to look forward to because they announced the details for the day 1 patch.
Ooh, this I had not heard about. What's this?
So, here are some of the additional, there are some of the things. This is not everything, but these are some of the details they're adding. Improvements to the camera with new options to better assist and track the action in tight space and improve visibility during battles.
That's
my number one complaint about the demo at PAX West and this was that the camera, I don't expect it to be great, and it's not. So it didn't impress me, it didn't let me down, but it's not good. And that's the one point I felt people were going to hit the most. And that is, assuming it's actually effective, is a welcome first piece of this day 1 patch.
Morag is awake, by the way.
Well, too bad. Anyway, he lost his right for me to care. And he said you win, by the way. That was his first thing. Yeah, at least he admitted defeat immediately. Yeah. The second thing is this new event scenes, new ones that if people are like playing it ahead of time, they won't see when they play through.
Okay.
And scenes from Kingsglaive and Omen have been added to the game itself to make the story and timeline of the events easier to follow for newcomers.
Interesting.
So they're patching in cutscenes from the movies and from
it
the
sounds almost like a director's cut that's getting put out on release day.
Pretty much. The addition of an ability tree, the Ascension tree, for Wait Mode. Wait Mode is getting its own Ascension tree added into the game.
And Ascension is the growth system of the game, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It is the skill tree system of the game.
Okay. That's such an odd concept. I needed time to wrap my mind around that.
They want to give people more options to make it an actual strategic element that their playthrough focuses on if they so choose.
Oh, that sounds really cool now that I think about it. So the way that I picture that tree kind of working out is when you get a crit, it restores some of the bar, whatever the bar is called.
You can think whatever it's going to do. You could theorize.
Yeah.
All we know is that...
Well, I mean, yeah, it's all three. Just like extended time, like you'll start out with 2 seconds of wait time, and then you can level it up, and you can get 3 seconds, 4, 5. Crits restore some of it, hitting weaknesses, things like that. That could be really, really slick.
It could.
You could almost do depending on how well this is done. You could almost do 2 different playthroughs of the game, one where you're focused on active, one where you're focused on the wait time.
If it works out in such a way,
it works out really well. Yeah.
Right. A new item. Players can obtain the Beast Whistle, which can be used to call monsters to fight on your side in battle.
So they're just taking the monster catching thing and they're going off with it.
It's not even monster catching. It's just a whistle. It's not like you catch a monster and it calls it.
How do you summon things? Which things do you summon?
It's probably something local to the area that you're in. I'd imagine.
Maybe.
Something within reason. But you're not catching enemies. It's just you're calling a monster to your side. It's not a party member.
You're still essentially throwing a Pokeball and saying, "Go, Bulbro."
Without having ever caught anything, though. Like, it's like somebody handed you a Pokeball that every time you throw it, something random or something within random limitations comes out. Yeah. A wider variety of recipes and fish with the addition of a gallery for completionist players who enjoy collecting items. Can't hurt. Not something I plan to exercise very much myself.
I'm not ever big on gallery stuff. So.
And the final thing, and this isn't everything, but the last thing that's specifically listed is implementation of social media support, allowing the photos Prompto takes along your journey to be directly uploaded to Facebook or Twitter. Technically possible through PlayStation 4's share feature, but they're building it into the game. So if you're connected online, you can do it from within the game itself. And that, considering that was one of my favorite parts of the demo, I'm happy with that. I was really happy. Every time I went to camp, I was like, okay, what pictures did he take? Oh, this one sucks. This was the one I wanted him to be good at. Picked a bad time. And those are all going to be patched in on November 29th, day one. And that's not everything. This isn't what they delayed the game for, but they're doing it after they developed these things after the game went gold.
Do they mention the size of the patch at all?
Detail the content of the day one patch. It's called the Crown Update. Nope, I don't see a specific mention of the size.
Okay.
But keep in mind, with they're adding a lot of scenes from Kingsglaive to expect it to be somewhat sizable.
That's gonna raise it pretty high. I was like, oh man, most of those don't sound that bad. Maybe 20 megs, maybe 30. And then I was like, oh yeah, the cutscenes.
Yeah.
So 100, 200 maybe.
Right. It's very possible that it'll be several gigabytes. I'd put aside several gigabytes for it.
Yeah.
Somebody says that somewhere they listed it as 7 gigabytes.
Really? Well, okay, I guess.
I don't know if that's true. I'm taking somebody who I have no idea their word on the information.
It could be. I was just underestimating how extensive they were going to be with the number of cutscenes they were adding. Then.
Okay, and then on top of that, he apologized for the people trying to spoil the game before it comes out. I'm sure, as you've heard at this point, several GameStops as well as some international stores have gone out of their way to sell the game at a premium. We don't know if the store is doing it, if it's the individual employees. But from what I understand, people have been purchasing the game early for $120 from GameStop stores that are, just doing it.
Yeah.
Morag is also in the chat at this point, and he wants to tell me a story about how to eat socks.
I don't know if I want to hear that story.
I don't know either. I only talk to people who are on time and awake, there you go. Day one patch announcement, 7.24 gigabytes.
That big. Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's going to take a minute then.
Damn, that's got fast internet if it only takes you a minute. It's pretty quick. I'm just saying, I'd be...
And I'm just ignoring that. Moving on.
Your internet would be pretty fast. Yeah. So anyone, if you see somebody streaming the game who is not It Me, JP, or IGN tomorrow, and it is the full version of the game... Twitch is actively taking them down. YouTube is actively taking them down. Square Enix is asking them to be the ones to take it down. Square Enix is actively pursuing removing content, as Tabata himself has said. If it is unauthorized, Square Enix will do its best within its power to remove the footage from the internet and to watch out for spoilers. What it's led to is some people who are not reviewers speaking on the game early, and there have been a few spoiler-free reviews of the game by your average user, and they have been generally positive.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
especially anybody that's willing to pay $120 to get the game a week or a week and a half early, they're probably going to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I think so. I hope. Well, they hope. They don't know. They might hate it. That's there's like, oh, I could get it early. Great. By the way, you could play the game early, just don't stream it, guys. That's it. Yeah. If you got it early, God bless you. So I know people who have gotten their
talking about it.
Yeah, I know people who got their UCEs already. They're ultimate collectors. I didn't. I wish I did. Even if I did, I couldn't friggin' play it. I would just do the unboxing early, and then I'd be like, "Gotta wait."
Somebody in my chat, $120 for a game? I don't like Final Fantasy that much anymore.
Well, I mean, that's all. That's just the price of 2 parts of Final Fantasy VII. What's the problem?
Oh, don't do that.
I just did that. All right. So that was for Final Fantasy 15. That's great. That's technically part of the future that we're talking about. But looking after Final Fantasy 15, there are several things to keep in mind. One, we have the DLC for Final Fantasy 15. I don't know how you feel about that. All I'll say before you say your opinion, they said they would not start development until after the game went gold. So they were not actively developed prior to the game's completion.
The only thing that's weird about it to me is that, all right, question, is there going to be 2 different kinds of DLC? Are we going to get the multiplayer stuff and the single player stuff?
So the only DLC I know of and I can speak of is there's Episode Prompto, Episode Gladiolus, and Episode Ignis.
Okay.
And those are their own short, constrained stories that delve into the background of those individual characters. They are also VR compatible. In case anyone doesn't remember the reveal for Episode Prompto, where he's sitting in the car next to Cindy. Those, from what I understand, each have their own gameplay. Ignis is stealth. I don't remember what they said about Prompto, and Gladio is very action-based, similar to the game itself. And that the 4th DLC is a multiplayer that lets you use all 3, plus, I believe, Noctis. I don't know if it's like you could play through the single-player campaign multiplayer, or if it's its own multiplayer mission that's separate.
It'll probably be its own mission.
I've heard some people report both ways, and I've seen people cite sources in both directions. So I'm gonna leave it up in the air. But is it weird to you at all or be already thinking about DLC for Final Fantasy 15 at all?
That's just the AAA market nowadays. I am not a fan of the approach, but when it's done well, it's okay by me. And if the DLC is good, then I am fine with that. Especially from the description of them each having their own specific type of gameplay. As long as it's good, then I'm all right.
All right. What do you see a future like a sequel to 15 or anything else that dives into 15's universe being released in the coming years? Would you even want it after 13? I mean, don't get me wrong. 13-2 was a good game, a good sequel to 13. But I think most of us would agree it was a sequel that no one expected and no one really asked for.
Yeah, it depends on how 15 plays out. If the story leaves something open for it, then yeah, sure. Please, by all means. But don't have it be something like with 13-2, where the ending of 13 gets more or less retconned in the first 5 minutes of the sequel. Don't have it be, oh, look, time shenanigans. God warped everybody's minds, and time is different, and that's why she remembers something different, but everybody else doesn't.
Now, with that in mind, while we may not have a sequel of any kind to think about, we do have the 15 mobile MMO to think about. Where do you stand on this after hearing about it about a month ago?
I still don't know. Do we have details on?
We have nothing. We have Morag is going to just jump into this call. By the way,
all right.
I'm just letting you know.
I'll turn my camera off.
You don't.
He turns his on.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Yeah. I'm just going to tell Morag. Sure. If you can stay awake. Sure. There you go. Yeah. So guys, Morag will be jumping into the thing. I'll have to reorient the camera. So apologies for that in advance on my end. I don't know if Morag needs time to set up, but he's on our time now, so he'll have to do it while we're talking. So what was I going to say? So yeah, I mean, it's still weird to me that there's a 15 MMO that's even going to be just put in as a possibility. You know, like just the thought of that is something I never thought we'd be talking about. You know what I mean? Morag.
Hi.
How's it going? Good to see you alive.
I am alive.
Yeah.
Somehow.
So you have something to say to Slack?
Yeah.
Nothing?
I have... It's like you win this one.
Yes, I do.
The admission of guilt while wearing a Duke Nukem shirt is staggering.
It yes,
Load
it's
out your ass.
Duke Nukem.
Is that not Duke Nukem right there in the center? Oh, that's
No.
Sabin, isn't it? He's got dude. He looks a lot like Duke Nukem.
No way. That's got to be Duke. He's
That
got
looks a-
glasses
yeah.
on,
That looks a lot like Duke Nukem.
I think it is.
but it's an
Yeah.
AGDQ shirt with a bunch of
Yeah.
other stuff going on it.
Yeah, they do Duke
It's
Nukem
like
speedruns.
there's Metroid down there, so
Yeah, but Duke
Um,
Nukem stands out. Like he's a pretty strong figure on that shirt.
He's right there, and he's just like, "What's going on, buds?" And then everyone else is just like, "We're playing video games. Please leave us alone."
Well,
And
he
he's
came
like,
here to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and he's all out of gum. So, well, Morag, since you just decided, by the way, thank you for joining us. This is Scott
You're
tehMorag.
welcome.
yeah, welcome. Good to see
I have
you.
a really good story about it because I had one of the coolest experiences over the last 24 hours. It was really good.
Yeah, I'm sure that sucks.
The last 24 hours involved playing Lost Odyssey and sleeping.
Yeah, at this point, you mean the last 26 hours because you're a little bit over your schedule at that point.
Yes.
We'll give you time for the sock story at the end.
Yeah.
So everyone stick around for socks.
Anyway,
This is
sorry, I
gonna be
didn't
good.
mean
I'm
to
looking
derail
forward
the
to this one.
conversation, though. So please continue on.
So we just finished wrapping up some of the
Right, the
details
MMO.
of the day one patch for Final Fantasy 15, which got detailed earlier
Yes.
today. And there was some good stuff in there, including camera fixes. Since you played Judgment Disc, I'm sure you're happy to hear that.
Yes, there was a little bit of weirdness there, but overall it was good.
We talked about how 15 is going to affect the future of the console market for Square Enix, because they said it is one of the primary factors towards determining if they keep developing console titles.
Mhm.
And we spoke about 15 and our anticipation for it after all of the count up. We're 8 days away.
Just let me bathe in like a bunch of CDs right now. Now just saying
As long
that,
as you don't fall asleep and drown in the bath,
that,
yeah, you
that
can be
could
all right.
hurt a lot actually.
Yeah.
Just sitting, like I'm just thinking like Scrooge McDuck style, jumping into like a vault full of coins, except it would be a vault full of CDs. I can only imagine this ending horribly.
Yeah, not a good idea. Make sure you have pants on is all I'll say. Otherwise,
You can have
it's-
a hazmat suit on.
yeah, I was gonna say hazmat, but it was like that's for nuclear.
But it's
shit.
big.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It's
hazmat too, but
poofy.
I didn't feel right. So I'm
All right,
glad
fine.
that I
Make
wasn't
sure
the
you're
only
wearing
one.
a suit of armor, full plate.
Yeah, full plate. There you go.
Yeah.
So now what we're talking about is the Final Fantasy, because now we're talking about the future, which this is the topic you picked out.
Yes.
So we're talking about the future
Thanks for
of Final
making up for
Fantasy
that, by the way.
15. And
No
so
one's had any other suggestions.
part
Anyway.
of the future is that Final Fantasy 15 MMO, and we're kind of just trying to figure out where we even stand on that.
It's another thing that, for me, I'm okay with most ideas as long as it's done well.
Sorry, I told
And-
Morag I'd be bringing nachos.
It's really interesting to see Square move so heavily towards this mobile market as they have been. They have released their IPs to a lot of companies that have then gone on to make mobile games. We have Dana, which is producing Final Fantasy Record Keeper. We have Gummy, I think, who is doing Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. And then, do you know who's doing Mobius Final Fantasy?
No.
Okay, that I feel like that one is sort of actually done by Square.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure,
Who will find out though?
but we've seen so much of their stuff get moved over to mobile, and we're ignoring some of the other titles because all the Bravest doesn't exist. By the way,
But next year is the year of mobile MMOs for Square Enix. Two of them.
So now we are seeing Final Fantasy 11 mobile coming out, and then the Final Fantasy 15 MMO coming to phones. And it's a very weird time, but it seems like something that they want to focus on really heavily. And so that kind of implies, I don't know, it feels like they're putting a lot of effort into it. So it should at least be high quality. And
theory.
given what we've seen of 50, yeah, in theory, they're putting their weight behind it. So I like some mobile games. Maybe this won't be bad. The
That's-
MMO aspect is so strange to me. I just wonder how they're going to make that work.
How do you feel about the whole mobile MMO thing for Square Enix after 15?
Well, it's just like seeing what like a whole bunch of other like seeing like the drive towards mobile across not even really ton of North American companies, but it almost feels like everyone else is trying to hop on this.
Especially Japan, because mobile gaming has always been huge in Japan for a lot of reasons. They do a lot of commuting. I think they're at home much less than other nations.
Well, that's the main reason why 15 was such a determining factor for the console market in Japan, was because it is a mobile lifestyle.
Yeah, like it even makes sense too. Whereas like companies like Mistwalker even came to be to go and make, you know, some awesome JRPGs. Like I just finished playing Lost Odyssey, but now like their last 1, 2, 3, 4 games since 2011 have all been mobile games. 3 games. I lied. 3 games, and there's no kind of an insight at this point.
Just to be clear for everyone who doesn't know, Mistwalker is the studio that was opened by Sakaguchi, the creator of the original
Final Fantasy.
The father of Final Fantasy, the creator of the original Final Fantasy. And when did he stop working on Final Fantasies? I don't remember.
He moved into it. He was transitioning out of the company, I think, somewhere around 8 or 9.
Okay.
And then I think he was a completely background operator for 10.
Okay.
I may be misremembering my history there.
I mean, I'm open to being wrong about that.
Just for if anybody out there remembers the concrete.
He worked on 10-2. He had a special thanks in 12.
Okay.
Well, special thanks in 12 probably because he had just transitioned out of the company when that was developed, and it was the first one probably without him working on it at all.
2006 was Blue Dragon, which was the first game.
Blue Dragon.
Yeah, Mistwalker has gone on to do Blue Dragon, which I've played and never finished because I couldn't stand it, and Last Story, which really Avalon Star loves. And
I loved it too.
I got to get around to that one. And then Lost Odyssey, which was a system seller for me for the 360. Speaking of system sellers from earlier.
And then, as he said, the last 3 games, Mistwalker's been on
and then they moved over to mobile. I was actually at the PAX Prime, when it was still called PAX Prime, where he came out and announced that they were doing mobile stuff, that their next game was going to be a mobile game. And then I've played it. It's not an awful mobile game. It's just not great either.
No, my only problem with Blue Dragon, the demo on the 360 was over the last boss.
Wait, the demo was the last boss?
Yeah, well, it was the second to last boss. It was the last dungeon.
Oh.
That's an interesting decision.
Or it was very close to the end. I know it was right at the end of the game, pretty much. And everyone just kind of hyperbolizes and says it's the last boss.
Yeah.
But it is hyperbole, but it was very far into the game that the demo puts you. And so you're just like, when you get there, like, where was the demo area? And then you get there, you're like, oh, so I know how to beat this boss already.
Someone in my chat is saying that it was Square Enix who developed and published Mobius.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah. Very interesting to see that shift.
Well, they were probably like, we're paying these companies to make, we can just make it ourselves. What the fuck?
Well, no, I don't think they're paying them.
No,
they're getting paid.
No, well, I mean, they have to give the development company, like, they become a publisher and they have a developer, so they're responsible for. They don't earn everything.
They're basically saying, like, there's a thing where these companies come to them probably and are like, hey, we want to use your IP, and they're like, all right, we're Square, give us a bunch of money so that you can use our property to market your games.
You go and talk about responsibility, and this is something that came up heavily while playing through Lost Odyssey. Is the quote is, "This should have been a Final Fantasy." So, realistically, what does it mean to have a game be labeled a Final Fantasy for you? Because just playing through the game itself was phenomenal, regardless if it had the label Final Fantasy or not.
It's funny, we kind of touched on this some at the beginning.
Yeah, we were discussing what is, 15, we were talking about how everyone, when it was Versus 13, they were like, oh, the game looks amazing. And it became 15, and people were like, oh my god, why is it action combat? And it was like the same people who had just completely shifted over when it switched from being an off title to a main title. Mm-hmm. So it is a good question. What does it mean to be Final Fantasy? And I think the answer to that is different for everyone. Yeah. I'd like to hear your answers on that. Morag, you got us into this. You could start it, Morag.
See, it's like I've been trying to figure that out because, like, to me, it's just no, it's not just another game. It's always been part of my childhood. A lot of nostalgia kind of drives that the answer to that question, because I've had a lot of fond memories and of having like just a lot of good feels when I do end up playing through these titles, and I could always end up possibly going back to them in some way. So is it a terrible thing that Square Enix is shifting away from what my memories tell me? Do they have a responsibility in order to uphold my nostalgia and to honor it with newer games, or are they a company and they just keep producing games that might give those same feelings in a different way to a completely different person at the same time? Should I be understanding the company in the direction that they're moving, or should the company be listening to me, part of the fandom? And that's a give and take question. That's going to be completely different for every single person. And
so for you, the nostalgia is what makes a Final Fantasy game. That's what I pulled out for the direct answer.
It's
to the
nostalgia.
direct question.
It's definitely nostalgia, because a game is still a game itself. What makes the game good is what I enjoy out of it. Sure, the Final Fantasy series has some really good key points, but there's so many other games outside of it too that have good, awesome points too. I'm not going to call Earthbound a Final Fantasy. It's an Earthbound game. It's still an amazing JRPG. Has its own unique story, characters, everything.
What about you, Slack? What makes Final Fantasy to you?
At this point, what the series has become, there's a lot of themes that carry between them. Familiar faces, I guess you could say. We've got Sids, we've got Chocobos, we've got the Cactuars, Tomberries, Behemoths, Iron Giants, we've got Ultima weapons. We nowadays have come to expect side content, lots of side quests, super bosses, strong emphasis on storytelling, and I don't know, because there are things that I would say that aren't a Final Fantasy if they were to do it with a series. Just like if Call of Duty were all of a sudden to become a turn-based RPG, I'd be like, no, that's not Call of Duty. What are you doing? That's not a Call of Duty game. I'm not going to buy it. And in the same vein, if Final Fantasy were to go, say, become an FPS or something, I'd be like, that doesn't seem like
looking at you, Dirge of Cerberus.
That's a side game. It's not a main series title.
I
I give those leeway.
I know.
So yeah, if Dirge of Cerberus had been a main series game, I'd be like, what the hell are you thinking? Please no. Not to mention that Dirge was just a bad game, period, but that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
Final Fantasy is, at its core, an RPG with a lot of familiarity. Things like the Chocobos and so on. Even Fire, Blizzard, Thunder, Cure, the spells, even the spell names, those are part of a Final Fantasy world for me. After that, it gets very, very murky.
For me, I'm going to say RPG, and every game is in a different world. I want world building. I want to me, every different Final Fantasy in the series that's numbered, that isn't a direct sequel or anything, tells its own story. I don't want to be told the same story I was just told, even if it's still, there's crystals and...
Yeah, to me, that goes with the themes.
I want to go through, I want to see all the things that I'm used to seeing in a Final Fantasy game, like you said, themes. Oh man, so that's how effort's in this game. Oh hey, my first Chocobo. Those damn Moogles are here. I want to have those moments, and then I want it to tell me a unique story with all of those familiar elements. And I want to go back when I'm done and be like, this dungeon, fuck that dungeon. Or, dude, I really like this dungeon. That boss was really cool. Like, same way I would treat almost any other game, but I just have that expectation that it's an RPG and it's going to tell me a new story every time. If it does that, it could be fucking named anything. I don't care. But it's named Final Fantasy. So, it's weird that Final Fantasy to me is just named Final Fantasy. It doesn't actually have relevance to me. It's just that it's a series that I can identify. Like, when I hear it, I know.
Yeah.
So looking more towards the future. So we talked about the mobile MMOs, After 15 is launched, the two next major titles for Square Enix are Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, like, major. 2.8, yes, okay. Like, but
Yes,
3, Kingdom Hearts...
new releases.
Well, 2.8 is, like...
You know what I mean. New as in a new game, not a remaster.
Hey,
not a remake.
0.2, prologue,
Or
epilogue,
nothing.
365 over 2, minus 8
Come
divided
on,
by
there's a
12.
reason I don't play that series.
Birth by smell, whatever they want to do with the naming, because they could just put words together and it just becomes a game title. Dream Drop Distance. Anyway, but Final Fantasy VII Remake is the other one. And this is another situation where people are looking at it and going, what are you doing to my childhood? Where's your stance on that?
It's going back to the same question I had earlier. Is like, can they be a company and do and continue making new memories for new people, or should they be treasuring and trying to nurture the past?
My question is, you have Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
It exists, and you can get better graphics if you really want to, if you want to mod it.
But it's very difficult to get those graphics to be consistent. Like, you have to pull in graphic upgrades for each different thing, and it doesn't always mesh together very well.
But you have that game, and what a lot of people are saying, but we just wanted the same game with better graphics.
I'm gonna go back to, I think Blizzard's the one that said this, is fans don't know what they want half the time. They just don't.
I think that was one of the dumbest things Blizzard ever said.
You think so?
He had his head so incredibly far up his ass. At the
Yeah,
time.
that wasn't so much about, that statement wasn't so much about, like, because yeah, I agree, a lot of fans don't know what they want, but it's not so much to the point where it's like, we're not going to listen to you ever, which is how it felt.
With
when it was
Blizzard,
said.
what this came about with, for anybody that doesn't know this, someone up at BlizzCon came up during a Q&A. Chris Metzen was on the panel, and someone asked, is there any plan for legacy servers? And Chris Metzen said, I wish I could remember the exact line, but players don't know what they want sometimes, something like that. And the thing is, there are fan-run legacy servers out there. There was a big drama shitstorm with one of them earlier this year. If you don't know about it, I recommend looking that up for a little backstory. This server had tens of thousands of players.
It had 600,000 players.
Hundreds of thousands. Yeah.
No, it had a ton.
And
Like,
it's I think these people know what they want because there's 600,000 of them that want it, clearly. And Blizzard is just like, no, they don't know what they're talking about. They're playing it because they're dumb.
Yeah. Granted, the context of the quote does suck, but if you think about the actual idea of it, and
the idea of it, I agree with in some cases, yes.
Yeah, it's just like, well, how do you end up acting on and trying? Because if you were to try and go out and make every single fan happy, it's going to be utterly impossible. You can't have someone that wants another Final Fantasy 13 and then that wants another Final Fantasy 7. You're not gonna you're gonna have, and how do you end up sufficing that? How do you end up doing that? Instead, I appreciate Square Enix for what they've done with the series, because they're taking a stand in what their vision, what they would like Final Fantasy to actually end up being. I can trust them because they haven't screwed me over. They haven't done anything that goes and stabs me in the back multiple times. Instead, I am going to be there. I'm going to wait for their next story that they wish to tell.
Slack.
Specifically with Final Fantasy VII, the remake?
Yeah,
or...
I mean, whatever. If you want to expand the idea, remaking an old Final Fantasy game, but on a new engine with not doing anything except taking the old graphics and leaving everything else stay. Like, people don't want them to change anything. They literally said, leave all the balance, leave all the bugs, leave everything. Just give me better graphics and re-release it.
I wouldn't have minded. I would have definitely preferred a Final Fantasy VII graphical upgrade remake where they tweaked some of the other things about the game engine, but not completely overhauled it. I liked Final Fantasy VII for what it was. I liked its combat system. I liked its development, the way that you level up, all of that stuff. taking it and then going, let's make like a souped up Crisis Core. I think that's what it's going to be. It really looks very similar to that at this point. It's from what they wanted to do with the series after Crisis Core released and how they want to change the story and update it and all that. I can understand them going that direction. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to play it because I love 7. But I'm also going to be very critical of the change. I'm not opposed to it totally, but I do not prefer it this way.
You don't prefer it this way, but how do you feel that division of the community is between the people who just wanted the graphical update and someone who knows they have 10 different platforms they could play this fucking game on already, and they're looking for a new experience with a nostalgic feel? Do you feel that it's worth expanding Midgar to all 8 sectors and fixing up all the translations and giving it its own combat system but telling the same story within
Midgar
region?
stuff is, it's something that I always wanted to experience in the original game, because they talk about it. They're like, oh, this sector's got this going on with it, and they've got this over in this sector, and they just tell you. You never get to go there and experience what they're talking about. That part I think is going to be kind of nice.
Do you think this will give you a better outlook on the Final Fantasy VII
on the Final Fantasy VII
world? Do you think
some of the other editions I'm already not a fan of, because I don't like Crisis Core much. I know I'm going to get lynched for that. The gameplay was okay, it was fun, and I wasn't that big into the story, the way that it severely retconned everything that was happening.
I feel you on that.
Flooded with so much information on the backstory. I was like, wouldn't this stuff have maybe been mentioned once or twice before? At least the name would have popped up. It's just very weird to have all of that stuff just rammed in there. And so now that this game is going to be designed around what Crisis Core developed the world as, those additions I'm really not a fan of myself. Seeing them... So I guess to make it a broader question, to see them go back and update their stories for other games. If they remake Final Fantasy IV, for example, and they update the story to include, I don't know, the bonus content from the GBA version, and to have that be a part of the lore of the world, like that doesn't feel right here. I don't like them changing so much about some of the older games, just because they're like, well, we've got a different group of people here now that all have different ideas, and we like those ideas on this game.
I don't know. If they just went and took 7, did a whole new thing, like just a basic, not even a basic, like if they actually went through scene by scene and just put it to that next level of current generation stuff, quality, graphics,
audio,
changing it up, just changing gameplay just a little bit for more housekeeping purposes, quality of life, it wouldn't have progressed anywhere, and it would have honestly made Square Enix look stale. And on top of that, it would have set a precedence for them to do it to all their other games too.
But
Which means that they still would have then been stuck in a loop. They would have had to dedicate even more dev time.
Basically, every 20 years, they have to remake a Final Fantasy with updated graphics at that point.
Every 20 years? Man, that sets it up for every 5 years, no matter what you're going to see.
It takes longer than 5 years for us to move up a generation of consoles. I mean, if you a Pro, it doesn't, I'm not going to consider that. That's halfway through the generation.
Again, I think it's trying to please an already very happy crowd. It's like, here, have some ice cream, and then they're like, do you want some fudge with that too? Oh, we're not going to give you just fudge. We're also going to put a cherry on top, and screw it, we're going to throw in a car for you too. It's
damn, that's a hell of an ice cream. Yeah, it's
trying to appease someone to a point where you can't appease them anymore.
I don't like cherries though.
Well, you sound a lot like a Final Fantasy fan when you say that, Slack, so that works out. As someone who is one myself.
It's almost like I did that on purpose.
I don't know. I think it's just the psychology of it. You end up hurting more than helping, and giving actual respect for your product at that point in some ways. Especially with what we've seen with Square Enix all over the entire series. Their main basis, like you were saying, Slack, a unique story. Unique way of building characters. A common theme, popping up between them with different little with different characters that make returning parts in the games. It's just like that is Final Fantasy to someone that's brand new coming in or an older person. That is where Square Enix stays faithful to their idea as they move forward into the future.
Well, another big thing with this, and I was about to bring it up, but my chat just brought it up. They're trying to attract people who are new to the series as well. That's a big thing. It's not only trying to appease us. They want people to go, wow. And they know they need it to look like a modern game with modern gameplay.
Think of how well Final Fantasy VII is going to go over with Conan O'Brien.
It'll probably go over really well because he won't be able to.
He's going to love the remake.
I don't think he can get away of showing zero combat for 6 minutes with Final Fantasy VII remake. So we'll see what actually happens on that front. I'm gonna love if he refers to, like, last time I played a Square Enix. Thing is, he's played like every fucking Square Enix published game in the last year. He did Tomb Raider. He's done like multiple of their games. It's not like he's gonna be like, okay, the last Final Fantasy game I played is a lot of walking. Are we gonna do a lot of walking here? The game's gonna start to be like, we're already walking. Like, no shit, you're walking, Conan. That's what people do. What, am I gonna teleport? Anyway. Do we feel it's acceptable to... That wasn't that funny, Slack. I don't know what...
I'm just picturing the whole thing. Continue.
Well, good to know he's already got one fan on that video. One like. Yeah. He's got one like
I like
already.
Conan. He's great. He's funny.
That video doesn't even exist yet. He has one like and zero dislikes.
I'm sending that like into the future.
There you go. So, do you feel like it's worth the reconstruction of one of our games we grew up with? I mean, this conversation can go into movies. It can go into TV series that are brought back or remade after 20, 30 years. That's basically what the equivalent is here to make it approachable for a modern audience. To you, is it worth having the remake for that sake and putting aside your desire for it to just be the same game with better graphics?
They're making a complete story now, so I don't see it as something that's the same. It's going to be a complete new experience even to older people. So I think it's interesting. Like, there's only so many different ways like Disney ends up retelling the Cinderella story. They've told that story how many times over the course of their things, but they put it with different scenarios. They put it
different
with
skin over it, yeah.
Different characters. But in the long run, it is almost pretty much the exact same story. And you know what? If it works, it works.
What about you, Slack? How do you feel? Does that change your way of approaching Final Fantasy VII, thinking about our generation? Or are you like, fuck these new people?
I liked it. They can like it. Fuck them.
Oh, how many people are going to take that seriously? You're the new Conan of this show.
Dislike.
I don't really like Slack's attitude right there. Hey, this goes on my YouTube. Fuck you.
I understand them developing it for a new and different audience, and a lot of the old audience is still going to buy it anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly. I understand it, but that doesn't I'm not happy about it. I'm still just not happy about it. I would definitely prefer the old game redone a little bit. And honestly, I don't even mind the old game's graphics that much. The characters moving around on the fields look like crap. Everything else in the game looks fine.
There is an amazing mod pack that I played with when I went and played through FF7.
Yeah, we remember.
And the only downfall was the translation. They made it very literal, but they cleaned up a lot of the little quirky stuff that I just didn't appreciate because I never played it as a kid.
Yeah, you would get new weapons and it was called my bong, and it was like, who the hell is that a weapon for? What is that? Oh, it's a spear apparently. Okay, sure.
No, it's for blazing. You said my bomb.
Glad someone went there. Oh, I know.
It was a fire spear.
It was called Reunion Mod. Reunion package, something like
I get it, because that's his reunion with Mother. I get it. That's so clever.
Yeah, I didn't like a lot of the new translation stuff in it, and I didn't like that they took... I mean, the thing is, with all of the graphical upgrades that we have to use for the Steam version or that we can use, you have to piece it together from all these different places. So they, like Yuffie looks completely different from Barrett's skin. Like they look like as if they belong in totally different games.
This wasn't the crazy, like, pull it straight out of like, felt like it was right out of Advent Children Cloud. That I hate seeing that skin anytime I see it in a video. I'm just like, why are you playing with this one? It looks so bad. Anyway,
there is a Final Fantasy Tactics hack that I found recently that has Advent Children Cloud in there, along with Dante from Devil May Cry and Snake from Metal Gear Solid. And I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at right now?
I love some of these mods. Now, if there is stomping all over nostalgia, childhood, and my memories, modders, I'm calling you out on this one.
Yep, there you go.
Oh, and it's got Link here. I'm gonna throw it up in the chat so you guys can see this one.
Oh my god.
Oh, I gotta see a picture.
The
of
ultimate
this.
derail. The ultimate derail.
What the hell is this?
So dumb.
So stupid. And the worst part is I want to play it too.
Because
He's right.
you want to be able to tell that narrative.
Oh man.
So, the next big part about 7 Remake, this is something that we saw exercised with Hitman. The game was released in parts. Now, the difference about Hitman to this, Hitman was originally marketed as a full game that would be released in multiple parts, and all the parts coming together were what they considered the equivalent value of a full game. I believe it was 5 episodes, and it was the total price. You could buy a definitive $60 version, not physical, but every time a new pack came out, you got that pack automatically, and therefore $60 game. And they just released it in pieces and took feedback in between releases to improve the later half of the game. Final Fantasy VII Remake is not doing that, even though this was actually quite successful for Hitman. They are claiming each version or each telling in Final Fantasy VII, however many games it ends up being, because it will be in multiple games, will be at least a 30 to 40 hour experience, each and every one. Now I have to ask you a question. Final Fantasy VII, I could beat the original one in 40 fucking hours with Ruby and Emerald Weapon done.
Yep.
What does this tell you about the quality of the game?
They have a lot of story to go over. They have a lot. Like, I was speculating with my chat, with my community, that if they are going to be doing 3 games at this 30 to 40 hours, and if they want to do it, they have all the way from, they have the Turk story, they have Crisis Core, they have the main game, they have Advent Children, and if they really want to dive into a possibly debatable is this canon or not story of Dirge Cerberus, they have a lot that they could talk about. They have a lot that they could go and just expand upon, because like we've seen what they tried to do with Crisis Core before. Like, and Slack, you were saying that you didn't feel like, you know, they were just shoving information down your throat. That whole story could open right up. They could add so much in there too. And it's just like, this is where like debate with the community is like, do they start off at the train?
Oh, yeah.
Or
do they start back further?
I'd be shocked if they didn't just start at the train.
I think the train is too iconic to not start at it. That whole opening
They
sequence,
want that first opening sequence for you to literally be seeing the PlayStation 1 version in your head while you're seeing it.
Why not make that the opening of the second game?
Because they need this to start strong.
because they want the pop.
They want that
It's
pop.
literally just marketing.
If it
through
starts
and
in its Crisis Core, then a lot of people are going to be like, what the fuck am I...
Well, if you think about it,
You know, there are two things they could do. The
Even
Crisis
Crisis
Core
Core
thing
started with
could
that
be
same
a
scene, though.
flashback, or they can do the Crisis Core thing where they can basically take that sequence but have it be the beginning of Crisis Core, like scene for scene,
Right.
which they could do. But I don't know. With how bad the backlash was for Metal Gear Solid 2 and the going, hey, look, it's Snake, and then, you're right. I don't know that they'd want to yank the rug out from under players that quickly with like, look, it's the opening sequence to 7, but it's actually Crisis Core. You're playing as Zack right now.
But it's going to be interesting moving forward what their marketing is going to be. Are they going to be marketing towards a new generation of gamers, or are they going to be marketing it older gamers, saying, we took your title and made it better?
The other thing is that makes me feel almost completely certain that it's going to be Final Fantasy VII's train sequence make a reactor first. Is the gameplay that we've seen so far was the part right after you're running away from the reactor. So you see Cloud on that bridge above the train. And
You also do see him and Barrett about to fight the first boss of the game, very briefly. And you do see gameplay as him controlling Cloud and the player controlling Barrett.
You get to take those with a grain of salt. We've seen many videos in the past, and then it was just tech demos at that point.
I remember the first gameplay I saw of 13, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Oh, that's not real. Okay. Got it. That looked amazing. How are they even control? They're not. It's not real.
No, that's how.
That's how. That's exactly how. So with that in mind, these are 30 to 40 hour games each by their claim. By their claim. I didn't say it's happening. All right. So calm down. Calm down.
I'm just saying. They're lying.
Just calm down. All right. Does that mean each game is released at a full game's price? And more importantly, with 40 hours out of each game, are you willing to pay $60 for each part?
They've already said that it's going to be in the same style as a terrible comparison, but what they did with the Final Fantasy 13 story. Each game itself was a self-contained story that told something to the greater story itself, and that they are all individual games with individual stories.
Now, with that being said, it's hard to have a self-contained story when we all know the fucking ending before we even buy the first game. That's a pretty hard thing to convince me of. That's my one.
I mean, you can still have the story contained there. I don't see why not.
It's contained, but you're not going to tell me that it feels complete at the end when I fucking know it isn't.
That leg of the journey can feel completed though. Like let's say if Final Fantasy VII HD Remake Episode 1 is Final Fantasy VII's discs, all smashed into one high def game. Then the beginning, the train sequence up to the end with saving the world from Meteor, I feel like is a complete story. And then if they do like an Episode 2 of flashing back to Crisis Core or something, and if they do an Episode 3 of Advent Children, I guess those could be their contained stories. Even the disc format works decently for some remakes here, for like a story structure of, they'll have to move it around a little bit because disc 3 is not that much of a disc. But there are some definite points in the story where you can end it on a cliffhanger, and it will feel, in a storytelling way, it'll feel accurate and correct.
But the real question is, are you willing to play them at $360 purchases?
If we get Final Fantasy VII as one game, I can see that being like a full price purchase. Because I'm already not buying the 30 to 40 hours thing. I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm expecting more like 20 to 30 hours, and that's not bad still. And if it's 20 to 30 hours even for a game, and it has some bonus stuff that you can do until the next episode releases, I don't know that they'll go 60 for that. And if they do, I could definitely see being pretty pissed.
That was the big question.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not going to be pissed at that point.
But will you still buy it?
Of course I will. I'm gonna stream the crap out of it. I've already told people that I'm going to stream it. Why not?
Yep. The ultimate thing a business cares about. Are you
Will
buying
we
it?
get your money?
Shut up.
Yes. All right. Here's our game, man.
Oh, man. So looking after Final Fantasy VII Remake, we already have an idea of what's possible. I don't know if you all have heard. There was a recent interview regarding what is after Final Fantasy VII Remake and Kingdom Hearts 3 from the creator of Final Fantasy X, saying that
Oh, you didn't hear this, Slack?
saying that after those games are complete, they'd be completely willing to do a 10-3.
They said it's not out of the
It's
question.
not out of the question, and
to continue
and
the
he
10
would
story.
love to work on it.
See, I don't want a 10
You
story.
know,
my
you know what I
mic
have
back
to
on
say
there?
to that?
Bro.
You know what I have to say to that? Ha 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 ha!
No, even playing through FF10 or this past couple months, I wanted to see a prequel. I want to see a
Let's be
prequel.
clear,
Yes.
10-3
Give me
could
a
be
prequel, and I'll be down
just
with it.
Devil May Cry 3 it, right?
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm playing through 10-2 right now.
You poor soul.
Can I get a gif of his face when I started describing and he figured it out before I said it? Can somebody get me a gif of his eyes just doing that, please? There's so many situations on the internet that call for a gif like that.
Oh man, I don't want to see the 10 story continued, but as I have talked about multiple times, if they do like a before years for Final Fantasy X with Auron and Jacked, $60, I'm in. I'm all in on it.
I am too. I mean, I'm in regardless. I'm gonna stream the shit out of it. But...
Well, yeah, exactly.
And once again,
but on
Get
an
your money.
emotional level, will
Get
I
your
be
money.
behind it? Yes.
yeah. How do you feel about it? Do you think it would continue after Will? Will did end on a cliffhanger.
I honestly I can't see them continuing on the story itself because of 10-2 got so dilute.
I would have said the same thing about 10.
But the thing is, as I take 10-2 as it was a pure ode to fans. Like that was the entire thing. It was only made purely for fans because the how you progress through the game, the more nuance into creating individual relationships with a lot of the characters, going back to each area at time after time. It was a lot of stuff that you would see in fan fictions after the main story is done. It's just like, well, what happens if this character and this character got together? And then this character also got there too. Oh, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah,
And it's just
fanfiction.net.
That was 10-2 though.
Yes.
And I can't see them going and trying to make it 10-3. They're like, hey, guess what? If you want to know the whole story, gonna have to go play 10 and 10-2 on Steam right now for $29.99. Like I can't see them doing that, so they're gonna have to do one before. Granted, yes, the 10-2 combat was amazing because it's what 13 it came from, in my opinion. I have a whole
for sure. Yeah.
of that combat system. But yes,
10-2 is definitely the very first baby steps of the paradigm system. Absolutely.
Now, 10-3 and its possibilities discussed, and I got to see Slack's reaction, which is all I wanted. There's also the discussion of what happens if 7 Remake is successful. Now, that's super far in the future, and they very directly discussed remaking other Final Fantasy games, ones that may be more in need of a remake, like 6 and 4, even
6,
8.
I don't know that I would say that. I don't know if I want a 6 remake. 6 and like Chrono Trigger. I don't know if I want to see them changed at all. But, and I know I'll be a hypocrite about this, I want to see an 8 remake. If there is any game in the Final Fantasy series
that
I
needs
think
to be
would the most.
redone, it's 8.
I want to see 8. If anything, out of all of them, I would love to see 8 cleaned up, solidified, and just not balanced, but just
No, you can use that word.
a balance. Not of a balance.
I would
of
actually like to
different
see 8
systems that are
taken in the active combat style direction.
Hey,
I would like to see it with the Crisis Core-esque gameplay.
Why 8? Why would you want that for 8?
Because I feel like everything about it is a big mess, and it could be...
It's a great game.
You wouldn't miss anything.
I would
of
like
it.
to see... Yeah, I wouldn't miss too much about it. I think if they... I would like to see what it could be if it was polished up 100 times.
Don't you want to hear Squall voice acted saying, whatever?
Never mind, let's remake a different game. Let's remake 6, even if it sucks. I don't care.
Actually, you know what's funny, Slack, is like I never could see a C6 being remade, but even just playing through Lost Odyssey, which like their main whole thing is like the magic mechanical age. It's just like, holy shit, this is Vector that I'm in right now.
Yep.
I could see them possibly doing it. I could see it possibly being done. It's frightening because again, it plays off nostalgia for me. It's one of it is the game for me. and it's a frightening thing, but I think they can pull it off.
Will they though?
No.
Will they get to that point? Even they have to get past 7 remake first.
Yeah.
That's the
Remake
important
Mystic
thing.
Quest, yes.
God. Oh my god.
So in terms of the future of Final Fantasy, we have all that. We also have something I skipped over with Zodiac Age, which is, just another remaster of an international version that wasn't really widely available. We'll probably see, a lot of Steam releases for games that aren't on Steam yet. 12 will probably hit Steam at some point. 15 will probably hit Steam in the next year and a half. We have the new Dissidia, for example, which its contract, I believe, runs out in the next week for its arcade exclusivity.
Oh god, yes.
But we don't know if and when that means an actual release. I think it's the first week of December its exclusivity wears off, actually.
Okay.
So we'll have more news
Oh,
about
I'm
that
looking
in the
forward
near
to that.
future as well. What, Morag?
Crystal Chronicles remake for Steam, please. Multiplayer.
Tactics?
Would you even want a remake or just a port?
I'll just take a port.
I
I'll take a remake, but I'm cool with a port.
Yeah.
I'd be down with the port. So many few people that got to experience that in multiplayer, just because of the GBA requirement. God,
Yeah,
so much
wasn't very intuitive when Nintendo was like, yeah, buy like 2 of our fucking consoles and then pay for an internet connection in a year where it's still really expensive. Wasn't
Double
probably a good combination of aspects to, enable online play. Yeah.
Final Fantasy Tactics Steam port.
I don't know that there's much else in terms of the future of Final Fantasy.
With an option for either script. That's all. Yeah.
For me, and Dante mode, and Dante Cloud Link mode.
Oh god.
It really doesn't help that in Tactics you could actually get Cloud in your party as is. Like,
Yeah.
that was a normal thing. Just, then they just make it
Hey.
part of the story.
He was there, whatever. They also had Beowulf.
That's true. That's definitely true. For me, I guess all I really want out of the future of Final Fantasy, I want to like the story more than anything. If they can keep giving me stories that I like, I'm engaged in, I have characters I hate that I can complain about, and characters that I love, and a growth of character, I will pretty much buy almost anything that puts the word Final Fantasy on it and then judge it after I buy it.
Yeah.
I won't say no, I'm not buying that. It doesn't look Final Fantasy to me. I'll judge how much of a Final Fantasy, like World of Final Fantasy is the least Final Fantasy game I've played, for example. And that's because it was all Kingdom Hearts story just with Final Fantasy characters thrown in there.
I don't know. Mystic Quest is pretty high up there, even though it's got the crystals.
Yeah. So I'll be the judge of it afterwards, and even then, if I like it, I like it. Who cares?
10-2. What am I thinking about? 10-2. I think might be the least Final Fantasy.
I could get behind that. I'm just gonna go with World because it literally was Kingdom Hearts. It didn't feel like there was any.
No, I very much agree with that assessment of it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's Final Fantasy without the or it's Kingdom Hearts without the Disney.
yeah, pretty much. I just want that. I want to see it continue being successful. I would like it to stay on consoles as well and not move exclusively to mobile. So that's where I'm hoping for the future.
I want I want a shift in the mobile scene because right now it preys on the super fans and the cynical way of saying it is pay to lazy. It just give me a complete game that I will pay for and show me what your ideas can turn into. Like, I know some are going to be bad. I know some are going to be really good, but trust, yourself as a company and just put it out. I want to see complete experiences. That's my big thing. And mobile games are not complete experiences by any mean. Zero. It sucks that's where RPGs are moving towards, or a lot of the genres of games are starting to move towards.
And Slack, where do you want the future of Final Fantasy to go?
More great stories, and I appreciate the continuing development of gameplay. RPGs as a genre need to keep going in that direction. We can't just say that the RPG style that we have, that the active time system and so on that's it. That's the end of it all for us. I've talked about this a lot of times. Earthbound's rolling HP system is a great system that I think should make it into more games. I don't know how no one else has taken advantage of that, really. We've also got things like the Tales series, where we've got the 3D environment. You're running around, you're doing combo attacks with your team. You've got cooking after battles to restore MP, to promote the use of your abilities. And Tales of Grace's F has a system where you get all these different titles. Every single battle you do, it feels like just one or two more battles, and you'll get another unlock. You'll get another upgrade for your team. You'll learn a new ability. You'll master something. You'll unlock a new title, which gets you more bonuses to your stats and stuff. I want to see not just Final Fantasy, but RPGs as a whole continue to push the genres, continue to push the ideas, and continue to develop new things that keep the gameplay fresh. I feel like Lost Odyssey might be the last great classical style JRPG that we ever see.
What about Bravely Default?
That's not quite. It's got the class system. I don't count that as much of the classical style. When I think of the classical style, I think of fairly rigid characters that are locked into a specific type. The job system definitely changes things up. If Bravely does keep making games, which they should, Bravely Second was a pretty good game and was fairly well received. If you count that as a classical style JRPG, then whatever the next game that one puts out will be the last. And they'll keep going until then. Until it stops making games.
Until it's the last until it's not.
Bravely Final.
Fantasy.
And as we know,
word
final never
final
means it's the last one.
Yeah, final is never a declaration of the end.
I do like Mistwalker's approach to their naming of games. Last Story, Final Fantasy, so subtle.
Lost Odyssey.
Lost Odyssey.
Not as much alliteration. That's why it's not as good a game. Needs more alliteration. Just didn't hit the key points right there.
And I guess the other thing for me is that the Bravely games, the first game tries to be serious storytelling, doesn't pull it off so well, and Bravely Second is pretty goofy, whereas Lost Odyssey plays its storytelling much more straight and much more serious.
There's so many feels.
Yeah,
so many feels. Yo, Pokemon had mad feels. I just finished beating the Elite Four and the champion right there. There's mad feels, yo. Listen, it's my first time playing Pokemon since Silver and Gold. I wasn't ready for a 30-minute cutscene before I got to pick my starter. All right, I wasn't ready for that. I picked Litten. Anyway, and then I beat the game with only evolutions.
Apparently, Bravely has a mobile game coming.
Yes, it does. As does is it Dissidia with Omnia? Was it called Omnia something?
Huh.
Yeah, Omni. I think it was just called just Omni.
Mobile games all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a phone, you're gonna start missing out on all of Square Enix's titles.
Go get a phone, guys. What's wrong with you?
Seriously, it's 2016.
It's 2016. Phones in 2016. There you go. Lol. Oh God, that GIF. Now, okay. So so Wolf, you made the GIF. Can you just get just Slack's face on it now instead of all of us? I just want the. It's beautiful.
Oh my God.
There you go. Overall, I'm excited to see the future of Final Fantasy. I've heard the card game has been a massive hit, and they massively underproduced it. Also,
wow,
it's like sold out worldwide.
Yeah.
Outside of Japan, I should say. Near a store that might have it is 14 miles away in Chula Vista. So, and next after that is 48 miles away. It's not meant, and there's no online distributors for America. So yeah, I'm fucked.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, yep. And the classic Star Fox 64. Good luck. So next week we're going to be doing a complete kind of overview of what we know about Final Fantasy 15. We'll be discussing the day one patch again, which will be coming out the day after next week's episode. I know, mind blown. The day one patch, we'll be talking about the movie, we'll be talking about Brotherhood, we'll be talking about all three of the demos and any information we have about the different systems of the game. So if you're still uneducated about what's going to be happening next Tuesday, get on it. Be there, or be a four-sided shape.
I know next weekend I'm just gonna be sitting down probably for like a whole day.
This is gonna be
everything.
this is gonna be me every minute that I'm like not live. This is gonna be me.
He's just sitting in the corner like a dunce. Or is he
Put a
crying?
cap on him. I think that's where he belongs.
I think he's just crying. I don't know
That's
what
gonna
he's
be
doing.
me for literally like 3 days straight, just staring at a wall, trying to let time pass.
Queue up a 10-hour Jeopardy theme, and I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So on that note, everyone, we're going to wrap up the show. Be sure to come by next week for what is planned to be our final Count Up cast, unless we decide to do an About 15 post-launch, which I'm not opposed to. Just as a final wrap-up, a review of kinds. No pants. I got pants on. They're just short. They're summer shorts in winter because I live in California.
Someone wears the short shorts.
Yeah, I know. Around the house I do. What, am I going to wear real shorts?
I'm
No.
wearing pajama pants, right?
No, I'm not wearing pajama pants.
I am, I said. Listen!
No, nobody cares about you.
That's the same way everyone feels about you, so.
I know. Well, no one cares about Morag today because he was late. There you go. That's the truth. We need to take our frustrations out on him.
Do it. I'll be your ultimate scapegoat. I'll sit here. I'll just take it.
Well, if you are actually there to take it, yeah, that'll help. Phrasing.
I'm just gonna say, just get a towel and put my face on it.
Don't do that. Okay. Don't say that.
Uh,
On that note, everyone, we're going to wrap things up. Thank you for joining us this week for CounterCast. Guys, why don't you tell them where they can find you at? Slack, since you were here on time, you go first.
Slackaholicus.tv. I'm also at Slackaholicus on Twitter. I'm going to be hopefully finishing up Final Fantasy X-2 by Wednesday. And then, I don't know, maybe I'm going to be chilling with 14 for the last couple days leading up to 15.
Morag.
My name is Morag. I sleep
I
in.
have a problem.
I sleep in and then I binge play games for 18 hours after that. Just finish up Lost Odyssey. If you even remotely enjoy JRPGs, and by the way, this wasn't said earlier, but it was leaked that if you download a shirt, that you get Lost Odyssey for Backwards 1 for free. Soon. It was out for like a handful of hours, and then
Download a shirt?
You're at like a shirt
So,
avatar.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
You need to be more specific. 'cause
I
I'm
didn't
like, what the
get
fuck
that
does that
download.
mean?
The Xbox avatar, Microsoft avatar.
I immediately
shirt,
started
and
thinking
you
of
get the game for
KO
free.
stuff, and I was like, well, I still don't really download that, though, do I?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But I pretty much stream like 8 to 20 hours a day. I usually end up starting about this time or on in the next handful of hours, and then I just binge. I play everything. I'm gonna be starting up some Pokemon today.
Like I said, I just beat the Elite Four. And the champion. I caught a few legendaries.
You beat it before any of the Europeans got their hands on the game.
Yep. Sorry. They still don't get it for 2 more days.
Going to waste right now.
They still got 2 more days, man. Listen, I didn't make the rules. I play a game, man. I play games for a living.
Oh, and then
But
Final
you
Fantasy
know the
Chronicles
rules.
is also going to be played if I beat Pokemon before that. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah?
I loved that game, man. I loved it. It was so much fun. It was just cool premise, everything. But anyway, twitch.tv/tehMorag, twitter.com/tehMorag. Go check it out.
And I am the last guy, the one who was here, the only one who was here before 1 o'clock, Mr. Happy. I have Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, same name, all of them. You can find me there, Mr. Happy1227. I just beat Pokemon, like I said, beat it. Apparently, the Elite Four still has some more words for me. And I have to catch the other 701 Pokemon that I'm missing. So,
Yeah.
there's 802, I believe.
Post-game.
I believe there's 802 total Pokemon in this one. Yeah. Scary.
It's okay. You'll have your Pokemon Go compatibility, maybe. soon?
No, I'll probably the Pokemon Bank becomes available January 18th, I believe, but I don't have any of the old old Pokemon games with anything in the bank for me to even care. So can't say that that matters to me. I am going to be doing Twitch front page for the next 3 Tuesdays, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So it's Pokemon this Tuesday, 15 the following 2 Tuesdays. So that's what I'm going to do. That's my
Someone
plan.
asked me this the other day, and I was interested in wondering or asking, what are we planning on count-up casts after next Tuesday? Or after 2 Tuesdays
Well,
from now?
that's
Are we gonna do
I don't know.
more,
There wasn't the
or-
idea for Countcast to last until 15 came out.
That was the idea, yeah, but did we want to keep doing them? I was just throwing it out.
Well, I wanted to just do one more so we could say what 6 days after the game comes out,
Okay.
what we thought of it. And then if we need to get together after that, we can always arrange it.
Yeah, okay.
Now this is the internet. We can't see each other after.
Nope, that's it. I hang up and I go and eat my nachos. You go eat your whore fudge Oreos, and he goes and eats Canadian bacon.
I was eating chicken.
Wrapped in Canadian bacon. All right.
Ah.
Deep fried in Canadian bacon. Yeah. Don't worry, when the MMOs come out, we'll just make a mobile MMO show. All
There we
right?
go.
Regarding 11 and 15.
The constantly up.
Yeah, exactly. Just never stop playing. Done. All right, everyone. We're going to move on over into a short post show so these gentlemen can get on with their lives. And
No.
these tweets are also great. I'm going to leave these tweets, by the way, in the chat because I know you guys are going to want these gifts for later.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Here's number 1. That's Slack number 1, and then you have Slack number 2. Copy link to tweet. There you go. I think I might like the second one a little bit better.
Oh God, that tongue.
Yeah, your tongue is like you have a big mouth, man. Okay, so there is one final thing we need to talk about that before I officially confirm post show. Socks.
It was me basically like Slack.
No.
calling
Give
me-
us the story.
Okay. So I had finished up my cast. It was 18 hours of pretty much like a little bit of bonus content and everything in Lost Odyssey. I wanted to beat it by today, and I ended up going through, and I was just like, this is a ton of fun. And I posted on Twitter. I was super happy that I beat it. It's just, off the high of a really, really good game. I'm just like, see you guys in like 8 hours for FF cast or FF count up cast. And then Slack goes and says, all I want is a well-rested Morag. Can you promise me that? And I was like, it's okay. I'll be there waiting for you. I'll be on time.
Were you on time, Morag?
On time and won't sleep in. I'll be waiting for you. ... with a Dan no face. With the arrow pointing and everything.
Were you on time?
No. I was not on time, and I slept in, and I was not waiting for Slack. Well, actually, that's debatable. You could almost be saying that I was waiting for Slack, except I was in my bed. But
You were waiting for Slack in bed. Got
I
it.
was waiting for Slack in bed. Yeah, for him to wake
They
me
all
up.
say.
Just shake me. It's like,
Nobody
Morag,
says that.
That's not
Slack.
how I
Wake
wake
up.
people up.
Morag, wake up. It's all good, man.
Dan,
Okay.
no. If you have a Dan no, please put your Dan no's in the chat right now. I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need your
Gonna
cooperation
need a lot
here.
of them.
Yeah.
But no, it was funny. I was feeling so good this morning when I beat it, man.
You were feeling so good waiting for Slack in bed.
And then I don't even know why my alarm didn't go off. I haven't even looked into it yet. I haven't even looked into why my alarm didn't go off.
All right, well, that was the story that we wanted to say for the end of the show. On that note, now we're moving on over into a short post show before these two gentlemen get on with their lives. So thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you next week where we cover all of the pre-Final Fantasy 15 information that we have. And until then, everyone, you have a good one, and take care.